Boss was the last word I expected to hear after my mother humiliated me in front of 200 wedding guests. She had just served me cold scraps while my sister aimed her phone at my chair, waiting for me to explode. But when the groom recognized me, the room changed. Then the tray slipped, and I saw a blue label underneath. Why did that label terrify them? The fork scraped across the aluminum tray. The chicken was gray at the edges, and the sauce had formed a thin skin. My mother pushed the tray toward me with 2 fingers, as if she did not want to touch it. "You've always said you don't need special treatment," she said, loud enough for the next table to hear. "So don't start now." My sister lifted her champagne glass. "Scraps are good enough for you." Everyone around me had a china plate and a linen napkin. Servers carried hot salmon. My place had no menu card, no dinner plate, and no meal assigned to it. I had not arrived late. I signed the guest book early and took my assigned seat. Then I saw my sister's phone. It rested against the flower vase, but the camera was aimed at my chair. A red light reflected against the screen. They were waiting for me to react. I had spent years believing silence was the price of peace. That night, I understood silence was useful only if it gave me time to see what someone wanted hidden. Where did this tray come from? My mother said it was left over from the staff meal. My sister said the kitchen found something because I arrived late. Their answers crossed each other. I reached for my purse and stood. The groom came toward the table. He looked at me, then at the tray. The color left his face. "Claire, boss?" The table went quiet. My sister lowered her glass. He asked why she had never told him Claire Bennett was her sister. She had said her older sister used another last name, worked as a freelance writer, lived in Arizona, and had been estranged from the family for years. She had also said I would not attend. My mother blamed me. She said I had hidden my position to embarrass everyone. My sister reached for her phone. Her hand caught the tablecloth. The tray slid toward the edge. I caught it. Something rough scraped my fingertips beneath the aluminum. I turned the tray and saw a blue label stuck to the bottom. It showed a facility code, a packaging date, and a delivery route. Beneath those numbers was the shortened name of a food pantry on the north side of the city. I knew that coding system. I had helped build it. For most of my life, my mother had called me the daughter who did not need anyone. My sister was the sensitive one, the one who needed protection. If I objected, I was difficult. If I stayed quiet, I was cold. I had not come because I believed they had changed. I came because I wanted to know I had behaved with dignity. I looked at the label again. That shipment had been scheduled for delivery that morning. I did not know who had brought the tray into the wedding, but I knew it was not kitchen scraps. And before I left, I had to make sure no one could make that label disappear. My mother reached for the aluminum tray before I could lower it onto the table. I pulled it beyond her hand. "Don't touch it." The sharpness in my voice silenced everyone. My sister gave a strained laugh and said I was turning cold chicken into evidence just to ruin her wedding. I did not answer. I set the tray down carefully and took out my phone. First, I photographed the table, including my place setting and the untouched meals around it. Then I captured the table number, packaging date, route code, and blue label beneath the tray. I included the time on my screen in one frame. I did not remove the label. I did not pass the tray around. I did not send the photographs to anyone who worked for me. The groom leaned closer and recognized the code. He said he could call the warehouse supervisor. "No," I told him. He looked confused, so I explained. He worked in my reporting line. His wife might be connected to the tray. I was her sister. Any private call between us could make an investigation look personal. He stepped back. That mattered. Power is not measured only by how many people follow your instructions. Sometimes it is measured by whether you are willing to step aside when your presence could damage the truth. I asked the venue manager to join us. She wore a silver name tag and carried a radio at her waist. I showed her the tray without moving it. I asked her to record where it had been found, place it in a clean storage bag, and preserve the dining records and security footage. My mother said I had hidden my position to embarrass everyone. My sister said I always turned family moments into moral trials. I no longer asked why they treated me that way. The better question was simpler. Who did this food belong to? I told them I was leaving. Outside, light rain tapped against the roof of my rental car. Through the glass doors, the wedding music sounded distant. My fingers still felt cold from the aluminum tray. I called the board chair and described everything in order. I told her the woman who served me was my mother. The bride was my sister. The groom was a new employee in my chain of command. My mother had once volunteered for the organization. Then I asked the board to restrict my system access and appoint independent counsel. Before locking me out, she authorized one check. I entered the code. The destination was North River Food Pantry. The status showed one word: complete. The system said the shipment had arrived. The photograph on my phone showed part of it at my sister's wedding. Only one of those things could be true. The next morning, independent counsel called before 9. North River had counted the delivery twice. They had received 36 boxes. The warehouse record said 72 boxes had left the building. The system still showed the shipment as complete. There was no signed count from the pantry, only one electronic scan from the delivery truck. The first driver had unloaded 36 boxes and scanned the full order code. The remaining boxes stayed near the loading dock. Under an old procedure, that single scan closed the shipment before the pantry confirmed what had arrived. For years, complete had meant the work was done. That morning, it meant 36 boxes were missing. North River had expected enough food to remain open until 6. Volunteers reduced the amount placed in each family box, hoping to stretch what they had. Shortly after 4, the shelves were empty. They taped a notice to the front door. No more boxes today. People were still waiting outside when it went up. I wanted to call the pantry manager. I wanted to apologize and send another truck before anyone else was turned away. The investigator told me not to. As the founder, my words could affect a witness's memory, even if I only wanted to help. Then the board restricted my access. I could not open distribution records. I could not contact the warehouse, the pantry, the catering company, or anyone involved. I could not speak privately with the groom. An interim team would handle every decision connected to the missing shipment. I agreed. Second Table had started with one rented van, 3 grocery stores, and a church basement that smelled like canned tomatoes and floor cleaner. I had spent years driving boxes across Ohio after dark, fixing broken freezers, missed pickups, and empty shelves. My first instinct had always been to move. This time, the right thing was to stand still. When you build something from nothing, it is easy to believe only you can save it. Stepping back can feel like losing more than authority. It can feel like losing the proof that you are still useful. But I could not be both the injured sister and the person controlling the investigation. That afternoon, counsel received a document from the wedding venue. It was a sponsorship letter on Second Table letterhead. It described the reception as an official charity event. At the bottom was the groom's signature. He said he had never signed it. Before I tell you what the investigators found in that letter, let me know where you are listening from and what time it is there. I always appreciate knowing where these stories are reaching you. The signature matched his handwriting down to the smallest curve. That was exactly what proved his hand had never touched it. The investigator placed the sponsorship letter beside a form the groom had signed during onboarding. Then she enlarged both signatures. The slant matched. The gap in the final letter matched. Even the pause where the pen had lifted was identical. The size was exact. A real signature changes slightly every time. This one had been copied from the electronic form and placed on the wedding letter. The email looked official. It carried Second Table's logo, address, tax number, and an old signature block. But it had not come from our current system. It came through a vendor portal. The portal could not reach payroll or bank accounts. It stored letter templates and vendor contacts. The recovery email belonged to my mother. The account had been reactivated 18 months before the wedding. I had asked for her volunteer access to be closed 4 years earlier. I received confirmation that the main account was disabled. I never checked the linked portal or recovery address. I had treated an administrative request like a locked door. The investigator did not excuse me. She did not confuse my mistake with the choice to exploit it. "Your failure created a weakness," she said. "It did not create the decision to use it." Both things could be true. The groom's interview explained the rest. My sister had always called him Luke and said only that he worked in logistics. She described me by my former married name. She said I lived in Arizona, wrote freelance articles, and had cut ties with the family. She never showed him a photograph. When he mentioned his boss, my sister mocked nonprofit leaders and said women like that performed kindness for attention. She never told him that woman was her sister. She did not need him to hate me. She only needed him to believe anything I did came from jealousy. A lie told early enough can become the lens through which truth is judged. That afternoon, she posted a shortened video from the reception. It began after I stood up. It removed the tray, my mother's words, and the blue label. It showed the groom calling me boss and my request that records be preserved. The caption said, "When your sister uses her corporate title to hijack your wedding." I did not answer online. Second Table's platform would not become my defense. Then the warehouse footage arrived. After the first truck left with 36 boxes, a catering van backed into the loading bay and took the rest. The person holding the transfer order was not my mother or sister. It was an employee who believed the paperwork was real and fully authorized. The food had not been stolen in darkness. It had left through the front door, in daylight, under my organization's name. The catering company's owner spoke with the investigator. She had worked with Second Table before. She donated staff and kitchen equipment for fundraising events. She remembered my mother from her volunteer years. When the sponsorship letter arrived with our logo, tax number, and the groom's signature, she believed it was real. She thought my sister's wedding would raise awareness about food insecurity. No one told her the missing boxes had been promised to North River. The emails showed that my sister was not a passive bride. She approved the menu. She chose where Second Table's logo would appear. She asked vendors to use the phrase community partnership. In one message, she wrote that the wedding would prove luxury and generosity could exist together. She also selected angles for social media. My mother gave the plan an official appearance. My sister turned generosity into scenery. After the reception, several sealed trays remained under refrigeration. The catering company planned to deliver them to North River that morning. Then my sister sent new instructions. She said another community partner had agreed to receive the food. She provided an address on the south side of the city. The address belonged to a discount restaurant. The restaurant did not sign a donation receipt. It issued a purchase invoice for $9,400. The money did not go to North River. It did not go to Second Table. It did not go to the catering company. It went to my sister's media business. The records showed payments to her photographer, part of her wedding dress bill, and a credit card account. Another transfer went to my mother. The description read community coordination. The investigator did not call that payment proof of a crime. She recorded where the money moved and followed the documents. My mother began sending messages before the interview ended. She told me to stop the investigation, repay everyone with my own money, and protect my sister because her marriage was falling apart. Family comes first, she wrote. I did not answer. Repayment could not make a copied signature real. It could not turn sold food back into a donation. My mother believed that because I ran the warehouses, the food belonged to me. It did not. Leadership did not mean ownership. It meant making sure what the community entrusted to us reached the people it was meant for. Greed does not always begin with a suitcase full of cash. Sometimes it begins with the belief that an organization is too large to notice what is missing. Then the investigator found 3 earlier events connected to my sister's company: a bridal shower, a holiday content event, a community brunch filmed as charity work. The preliminary value was approaching $200,000. The cold tray had not started the scheme. It was only the first piece placed directly in front of me. The investigation expanded beyond the wedding. The bridal shower had received flowers, food, and a venue as charity. A holiday event used Second Table's logo to attract sponsors. At a community brunch, my sister filmed herself handing out a few boxes while most of the food had no confirmed destination. The method was always the same. Each request stayed small enough to avoid review. My mother used old language and trusted contacts. My sister turned it into polished content. The estimated loss reached $193,600. That number felt less real than the sign on North River's door. No more boxes today. Then the board reviewed my responsibility. They asked whether I had requested my mother's access be closed. I had. Whether the main account had been disabled. It had. Whether I had checked the linked portal and recovery email. I had not. I treated familiarity as proof that the risk was gone, I said. The board found no evidence that I knew about the scheme. I had reported the tray, preserved evidence, and stepped away. But the access weakness had been preventable. I would keep my title, but lose control. I could not direct staff, approve vendors, contact witnesses, or review records. In my office, a photograph of our first rented van sat beside my computer. My orientation mug remained near the window. Beyond the glass wall, people checked delivery routes without waiting for me. It hurt. It also proved Second Table had become larger than its founder. I left my keys on the desk. My family had tried to place me beneath everyone else at a wedding table. Now their actions had removed me from the highest seat in my organization. The board had not acted to humiliate me. They had acted because rules had to be stronger than anyone's reputation, including mine. Responsibility was not a pie with one slice. I could be wrong for failing to check the door. They were still responsible for opening it and taking what did not belong to them. Online, my sister claimed I had created the scandal because the groom had chosen her. Relatives asked me to forgive. One aunt said paperwork could not replace family. Paperwork is how people prove what happened when family members lie, I told her. The groom moved out, but I could not speak with him. I stayed in a hotel and woke each morning with nowhere I was permitted to lead. 4 days later, the front desk called. My mother was in the lobby. She carried pastries and told the staff I might refuse to see her because I was ashamed. A message from counsel appeared. Do not agree to repay anyone. Do not call this a misunderstanding. Preserve the conversation. Downstairs, my mother sat beneath a photograph of the city skyline. She smiled and pushed the bag toward me. I came to help you put an end to this. Part of me wanted an apology. Then I remembered the cold tray. She had come to ask me to save them again. My mother sat beneath a photograph of the Cincinnati skyline. A pastry box rested between us. I came to help you put an end to this. She said my sister had lost sponsors and the investigation had gone far enough. She wanted me to repay the pantry, call the wedding a misunderstood community event, and ask Second Table to keep the matter private. I asked whether she had used the old vendor portal. She dismissed it as a technical detail. When I mentioned the password reset, she looked away. It was still active. Active did not mean authorized. She said I had never forbidden her directly. North River had received half the shipment. Anyone turned away could return another day. Hunger cannot be rescheduled. My mother measured harm by what remained. If someone still had food, she believed nothing had been taken. If I still had a career, she believed she had not damaged me. She never looked at the missing half. You care more about strangers than your own family. I care about what belongs to them. I told her blood did not authorize false letters or diverted property. She warned that I would regret it if my sister went to prison. I said I was refusing to hide the truth. Minutes later, my sister called from an unfamiliar number. She blamed me for her husband leaving and her canceled contracts. When I asked whether she knew the food belonged to North River, her crying stopped. She said the wedding video could make people believe I threatened her husband's job and invented everything out of jealousy. Is that why the camera faced my chair? She denied it, then said, I don't have to prove you did anything. I only need people to question you. Not a perfect lie, only enough confusion to weaken the truth. I told her to preserve the full recording. She laughed. I had been removed from the organization. I stepped away because the rules apply to me. That is the difference between us. She hung up. I documented the call and sent the facts to counsel. For years, I thought I was holding my family together. I had only protected them from change. The next morning, counsel said investigators had preserved my sister's cloud data. The clip lasted less than 2 minutes. The original began before I reached the table. If you are still listening, please leave a comment below sharing your level of satisfaction. It lets me know that I have companions joining me on this journey. Your presence is the greatest source of encouragement for me to go on and tell the final part. The video my sister created to prove I was unstable had recorded what she never wanted anyone to hear. The investigator met with me in a small conference room and explained the limits before she opened the file. I would hear only the parts that directly concerned me. The recording had not been taken by me, the groom, or anyone at second table. It had been preserved through the proper legal process. That mattered. My sister could no longer claim I had used my position to search through her private life. The recording began with wedding music being tested through the speakers. Chairs scraped across the floor. Silverware touched china. Then came a softer sound. The phone was being moved closer to the flower vase. My sister's voice came through first. "Move it closer. I want her face when she sees the tray." My mother told her not to make it obvious. My sister said I would either eat the food and look pathetic, or lose my temper and prove everything she had told her husband about me. Then my mother said, "If she starts shouting, let her finish. Don't interrupt her too soon." The investigator let the silence sit for a moment before the recording continued. My sister asked about the label beneath the tray. My mother said I would be too focused on the insult to check the bottom. The other marked containers had already been moved into the service area. If I asked questions later, she said, no one would believe me. They would assume I had invented the whole thing because I was angry about the wedding. The investigator stopped the audio. I kept both hands flat on the table. Did I raise my voice later? No. Did I threaten anyone? No. Did I say I would fire him? No. Did I say I would destroy my sister? No. The rest of the recording showed me asking where the tray came from. It showed me photographing the label, requesting that the records be preserved, warning the groom not to investigate on his own, and leaving. My calm had not been passive. It had broken the plan they built around me. For years they had caused the wound, waited for my reaction, and then started the story from that moment. Everything before it disappeared. My pain became my personality. Some families do not resolve conflict. They decide in advance who will carry the blame, then arrange every scene so that person never escapes the role. Being proven right did not heal me. Sometimes it only confirms that what you feared most about the people you love was true. The investigator said the full recording would be added to the referral package. The tray showed where the food went. The money showed who benefited. The recording showed they knew exactly what they were doing. And that changed the investigation completely. For months, the investigation moved without drama. Investigators verified email headers, reviewed devices used to reach the old vendor portal, and interviewed the catering company, the restaurant, and sponsors. They compared signatures, traced bank transfers, and audited 18 months of events tied to my sister's business. Nearly 6 months after the wedding, counsel called. The charges had been approved. There was no raid. No one was led away in handcuffs. Their attorneys arranged for them to appear at the courthouse. My sister arrived first in a dark dress and oversized glasses. My mother came 10 minutes later with a different lawyer. They did not sit together. That distance told me the alliance had begun to break. Through counsel, my sister said my mother had handled the paperwork. She claimed she believed my mother still had informal authority at second table. She described herself as careless and unaware of where the food had been assigned. My mother told a different story. She said my sister understood branding, business accounts, and social media better than she did. She claimed she had only contacted vendors to save her daughter's wedding. She pointed out that most of the money had gone to my sister's company. The records supported neither version. The timeline showed my mother resetting the old account, using real templates, drafting sponsorship letters, contacting vendors who remembered her, preparing transfer forms, and keeping North River's name off the wedding paperwork. It showed my sister choosing vendors, approving the menu and camera angles, deciding where our logo appeared, directing the remaining food to the restaurant, receiving the payment, and using the money for personal expenses. Both voices were on the recording. People who build a lie together often call it loyalty until consequences arrive. Then each person begins explaining that the other was in control. My mother had spent years protecting my sister from consequences. It had not created gratitude. It had created two people who believed someone else should carry more blame. I no longer wanted to choose their punishment. Revenge would have kept me tied to them. Accountability allowed me to step away. I did not need to become the consequence. I only needed to stop standing between them and it. My sister accepted a plea agreement first. My mother refused. She wanted to be described as a well-meaning parent who had made a mistake. Then the device records were confirmed. The old portal had been accessed through the internet connection at her home, using a tablet registered in her name. The final emails showed what she could no longer deny. My mother had not merely known about the plan. She had taught my sister how to make it look legitimate. The final device report removed what remained of my mother's defense. The password reset link had gone to her personal email. The old vendor portal had been opened from her home. The false letters had been edited and sent from a tablet registered in her name. In one email, she wrote, "Do not call it a private reception. Call it a community fundraiser. That gives vendors a reason to donate." In another, she warned my sister not to place North River's name on any wedding invoice because I reviewed unusual records. She had understood the system well enough to hide what she was doing. After that, she agreed to plead guilty. Before sentencing, I was allowed to visit North River. The pantry sat beneath fluorescent lights. Shelves held rice, cereal, canned beans, and pasta. A folding table stood near the storage door. On it was the old delivery sheet. 36 boxes received, 72 expected. The manager said they had planned to stay open until 6. Volunteers made each family box smaller, hoping the food would last. Shortly after 4, there was nothing left. They taped a sign to the door. "No more boxes today." An older man had been waiting for food until his next Social Security payment. A woman had taken 2 buses after a cleaning shift. A father asked whether any bread or milk remained for his daughter. Nothing did. No one knew whether they found help elsewhere. I apologized for failing to confirm that my mother's access had been completely closed. The manager did not rush to comfort me. "You reported it," she said. "You also missed a weakness. Both things can be true." That sentence stayed with me. Responsibility was not a contest. My mistake did not erase their choices. Their choices did not allow me to pretend I had missed nothing. Nearly $200,000 sounded enormous, but numbers remained distant. A locked door in front of a hungry person was the real shape of the damage. That night, I rewrote my statement for court. The first draft began with the cold tray, the camera, and years of humiliation. I deleted it. The second focused on second table's reputation. I cut that too. The final version began with North River's door. I wrote, "I failed to verify that an old door had been locked. I accept responsibility for that failure. They are responsible for choosing to open it, walk through it, and take what belonged to someone else." The night before sentencing, my mother sent an email through her attorney. She did not apologize to the pantry, the vendors, or the groom. She only asked me to remember that she was still my mother. I did not answer. The next morning, when I entered the courtroom, she looked at me with the same expression she had used for years. This time, she was asking me to save them both. The courtroom was smaller than the ones on television. A few reporters sat near the back. Representatives from second table, several vendors, and pantry workers filled the remaining seats. My mother and sister sat at separate tables. They did not look at each other. The prosecutor summarized the evidence. The old account had been restored on purpose. False documents had been used at several events. The groom's signature had been copied. Food had been diverted, sold, and used for personal expenses. Both women knew about the labels and had discussed how to discredit me. Then I carried my statement to the podium. I did not begin with the cold tray or the guests watching me. I began with North River. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, North River put a sign on its door. "No more boxes today." I spoke about the older man waiting for food until his next Social Security payment. I spoke about the woman who had taken 2 buses after a cleaning shift. I spoke about the father who asked whether there was any bread or milk left for his daughter. No one knew whether they found help elsewhere. Then I acknowledged my part. I had not checked every old access point. Familiarity had made me underestimate the risk. A leader was responsible for weaknesses in the system she helped build. But a weakness in a door was not permission to walk through it. The judge asked whether I supported the plea agreements. I said I supported admission, restitution, safeguards against future misuse, and consequences that matched the conduct. I did not ask for a number of months. My sister received a custodial sentence. She was ordered to pay restitution, accept financial supervision, and stay away from charitable fundraising. Her media company entered court-controlled dissolution. My mother received home confinement with electronic monitoring, followed by probation. She also owed restitution and could no longer manage charitable money or systems. When the judge finished, my mother looked at me. She was waiting for comfort. I did not smile. I did not turn away. I simply stood there. That was not cruelty. It was the first time I had refused to step between her and the consequence. I had imagined justice would feel like victory. Instead, it felt like a door finally closing after years of being left open. I was not glad they had lost their freedom. I was relieved that protecting them no longer required me to sacrifice the truth. Dignity was not making them hurt more. It was refusing to let their choices turn me into them. After the hearing, the board asked me to return for a meeting. I did not know whether they would restore my authority, offer me a ceremonial role, or ask me to leave second table for good. As I entered that conference room, I realized the hardest decision might still be waiting for me. The board meeting began with the conclusion I had waited months to hear. The board found no evidence that I knew about the fraud. I had reported the tray, preserved the evidence, disclosed my family ties, stepped away when required, and admitted the access failure. They asked me to return as chief executive officer, but returning did not mean restoring the old system. 2 people would confirm every access removal. Old vendor portals would be reviewed. Personal emails could not recover accounts. Food transfers required 2 approvals, and the pantry had to confirm the count before a delivery could be marked complete. Family relationships also had to be disclosed. No one, including the founder, could skip those rules. I agreed to return only if they applied to me too. The employment review cleared the groom. His signature had been copied and he had preserved his records. Trusting my sister too easily was poor judgment, not fraud. He remained under another executive. I did not rescue him. A fair process protected him. Restitution and recovery funds repaid vendors, replaced missing food, improved our system, and helped North River obtain a refrigerated truck. On a cold morning, the truck backed toward North River's dock. The boxes came down one by one, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. The pantry manager checked the count, signed the receipt, and pressed the final button. Complete. This time, the word appeared only after the last box was inside. I looked toward the door where the old sign had once been taped. No more boxes today. The paper was gone. The lesson remained. I did not keep the blue label. It belonged in the case file. I would not build my future around their humiliation. On my office desk, I kept one photograph. 72 boxes inside North River. It showed only the food, finally where it belonged. I once believed silence made me look weak. At the wedding, it gave me time to notice the camera, find the label, and refuse the reaction they had prepared. But silence matters only when it leads to action. I did not shout or seek revenge. I preserved the truth and let the consequences reach the people who had earned them. My mother once placed scraps in front of me, as if she could decide what I deserved. She never could. My worth was in what I protected, the boundaries I kept, and what I refused to let others take from people with less power. How satisfied were you with my decision to let the evidence, and not revenge, finish the fight? Rate this story from 1 to 10 in the comments, and tell me honestly, would you have walked away as calmly as I did that night? Thank you for staying with me to the end. Wherever you are listening from, remember this: no one else gets to decide what you are worth. What did you think of her decision? Would you have handled anything differently if you had been in her place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them, and I would truly like to hear what you would have done. If this story gave you something to think about, please leave a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel so you will not miss the stories still to come. Thank you for spending this time with me. I will see you in the next story.